And with that, I will kick it over to Charlotte Water Director Angela Charles. Ms. Charles.
Thank you, Corey, and good morning, everyone. Again, I am Angela Charles, the Director of Charlotte Water, and so I want to give you an update on what happened Monday, October the 18th, yesterday. At approximately 4 o'clock p.m., our crews responded to a large water main break in the 1400 block of Remont Road. Now, we've seen several pictures, and thanks to the social media folks who put that out there ahead of time. This water main is 36 inches in diameter and was put in 19 or installed in 1955. What's also unique about this water main is that it's a transmission main. And so the break that we are dealing with, and we're dealing with yesterday, is on pipe that we call transmission water pipe, which means that its role in the community is to transport water from the water plant out through our service area. So a typical water main break is more localized and impacts folks maybe on a street, on a cul-de-sac, or in a neighborhood. This particular main, and if you saw the pictures, how it was shooting up in the air, is transmission. And so it carries large volumes of water throughout our service area. And so this break, being that it was on a transmission main, caused low pressure or no pressure in a service area zone in our county. And so we use pressure zones to demarc our water system, and that's how we manage the system. I don't want to get too detailed. However, the folks who were really impacted are maybe folks at higher elevations within that pressure zone in the maps that we show, not everyone. We did receive some calls from customers. Mostly, we did receive a call from the airport, and also we got calls from several neighborhoods. Now, in the beginning, we knew that we were dealing with a large main break, but we also were receiving calls in other areas in our community. And so it did take us some time to really isolate and evaluate kind of what was the widespread impact with what we were dealing with. So now, if you did not lose water, there's no need to act, and your water is safe to drink. And so we sent out an advisory, low pressure advisory yesterday, saying that only the folks who lost water service yesterday, we want you to boil your water for the next 48 hours, and that was from yesterday until we complete all of our water quality testing. Now, why is that done? The water system is a pressurized system. It works under pressure. So when you turn on your tap, water comes out. So water flows out of water pipes, not into pipes. Well, what happens is that if we see evidence that parts of our system were depressurized, there is a slight chance that something could have been drawn into the water pipe serving a particular home or dwelling. And so until we complete that water quality test, and we're saying as a precautionary measure, if you lost water service, indicating that you may have your system may have been depressurized. We want you to go ahead and boil your water until we finish our water quality testing. And so that's what we're doing. It's a precautionary measure. Now, if you did not experience any issues at all, and we know there are many, many in that blue area that did not, then you're fine. Your water is still safe. Your system is properly pressurized. When you turn on your tap, water comes out. Then you're fine. It's only those folks who experienced an interruption in water service that we were concerned about, and we want to make sure everything is okay. So the risk is very low. Our folks have been out flushing hydrants since the break itself was isolated. And so let's talk about that a little bit. So there was a period of time when there was, where we had gotten a report and we were able to say that we had it isolated. And so that takes time. This pipe is large enough for me to crawl in. And so it's also 15 feet up under that creek bed. And so our folks had to go out and turn valves, approximately 4 of them. One valve, one 36-inch valve is 214 turns. That's 214 times for one. I just mentioned that because I commend our folks for doing such a quick job and for getting everything isolated in a fast manner. Now, samples, we've been sampling since last night. We're sampling today. In this particular pressure zone, we have over 200 sampling stations. Those stations are already there in our community. And so we are getting by 100 of them today. We're doing what you would call maybe survey testing just to ensure that we've got, the proper water quality there. And then we are expecting all of our lab results to be in on tomorrow. One of the most important tests that we do takes a minimum of 18 hours, maximum of around 24 to get in. And so we're also doing that just to, ensure that the product that we are delivering is what it is to be in of the highest and best quality. Also, I just want to commend the folks at CDOT. They came out to the Remont Road Bridge. That bridge has been inspected, and they have determined that there's no threat or anything to the traveling public. So shout out to our folks in CDOT. We've been in consultation with schools, and there are some schools that are using bottled water today and tomorrow. So thank you all for your cooperation and partnership, and other critical customers that we have in the community. We thank you because this is an unusual occurrence. I have been working in this community for over 33 years, and certainly I have had my share of water main breaks. And what I have said is this is one of the most serious, largest ones that we have. This one was historical, and to have a historical water main break in the midst of a pandemic, I just think speaks volumes about the work that our folks and our partners in the city have done. We haven't received any reports of anyone getting ill or anything like that during the advisory. And what we are doing now is we're investigating the cause. Now, I stated before that the water main itself has been around since 1955. That's about 66 years. That is a long time. This is pre-stressed concrete cylinder pipe. It has a long shelf, I don't want to say shelf life, but it has a long, let's say, water pipe life. We again are investigating the cause of the break, and will be initiating the repairs, and of course any updates as we move along. Folks and our staff is meeting with contractors today on site. We've got other partners that we're having to coordinate with because of the location of the break. We will keep everyone, posted. So, the bottom line is I want to thank everyone for your patience. I know that the need for information sometimes is faster than we can deliver it. There is a period of time when we are in isolation and assessment, and we are dealing with something here that is not of the norm. Water systems have water main breaks, and that's a part of managing a dynamic system. It's different than other utilities. Either it's off or it's on. Water is always moving. It's dynamic. It's not static. And so, we again appreciate everyone's patience, as what we try to do is, just deal with it effectively, communicate what we knew in terms of who was impacted, who wasn't. There may have been some confusion as to, is it everybody in the blue area or not? Why can't you narrow it down? It's so locational, and it really depends on the elevation of where you are, whether you were impacted or not. So we really tried to say, okay, this is the area here, and if your service was disrupted, then we want you to boil your water until we can get through with the water quality testing, and then we'll proceed as normal. Again, if you weren't impacted at all, your home was fine, and there are many in that blue area didn't even have a clue that anything was going on Remont Road, then we want you to know that your water is safe, and it will continue to be safe. That's why, we have sampling stations, and that's why we do hundreds of samples a month. That's one of the reasons we are one of the best in the nation, and we have a system that doesn't have violations. And so, you can look at our water quality report and see that. So, that's the, bottom line to it. We'll proceed with a plan for repair. It will be a difficult repair. It's a 36-inch pipe, 15 feet under the creek bed. And so I have every bit of confidence that our folks, we have the technical expertise and talented employees who can plan this along with the contractor to get this thing fixed, and we will carry on. So Corey, that is my update. I tried to cover a few key points, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Charles. As a reminder to our reporters, if you will utilize the Raise My Hand feature in WebEx, I will call on you for questions. Once your question is over, if you would politely lower your hand, that would be great for the rest of your colleagues who have their hands up. At this time, I will turn it over our first question to WSOC reporter Joe Bruno.
Thanks, Corey. Angela, it took nearly 6 hours for Charlotte Water to tell people to boil their water. How is that acceptable?
Well, Joe, Joe, it was 7:30 or so before we could really get a good handle on what we were looking at and with our instrumentation. So let me tell you a little bit about the process. So between 4 and 5, our folks got there. Five to six, we were in communication with our water plant folks. And during that time, Joe, we were also evaluating and looking at our telemetry and looking at pressure recorders out in the system and also evaluating what was going on in our water plants. And so there were two things going on, Joe. One is to determine the size and the scope of who was impacted. And the second is to look at the raw data to see if we had actually had pressures low enough to be of concern. And that took some time. And so it sounds like a long time and from one sense, and I certainly understand that. The other part of it is that because this is a serious decision for us, we wanted to make sure that the data supported that low pressure advisory. And we also took some time, Joe, to see if we could delineate the area because we know how the water system works, that we did not experience low pressures in the whole blue area. But because it's so localized and we couldn't delineate, we had to come up with a good way to communicate. What we've done here is precautionary. And we felt like once we've got the information in from our pressure recorders, and like I said, we have over 200 of them out in this area. Once we got that information back in, evaluated that, and bounced that against what we were seeing with our water plant, then we felt like we needed to move in that direction. And that occurred around 7:30 or so, between 7:30 and 8. So that's where we were.
Okay, our next question will go to Brett Jensen. Brett, go ahead with your question.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, Angela. So I put out there on Twitter that the pipe was from 1955. People are already responding to that, just wondering why the pipes were so, old. So let me ask you this. What is the normal, like a better term, the shelf life of these big pipes? And if this is due to age, going down, in stability, what does that mean for other pipes? And what are some of the oldest pipes that you know of in Charlotte?
That is a great question. And I will tell you that it depends on the pipe type. And let me give you a good analogy. You know how cell phones have changed over the years. So, we've gone from the flip phone to now we've got other iPhones and mobile devices. The same thing happens with pipes. And so this pipe is from 1955. It's pre-stressed concrete, a cylinder. It's lasted for at least 60 years. A good benchmark is when we put something in the ground, one thing we would say, if this lasts 30 to 50 years, it's doing well. We're not sure that age was the cause, but age can be a factor. Now, let's talk about some of the oldest pipes in the Charlotte water system. We have some old cast iron pipes from the 20s and 30s that are performing quite well. And the reason why they are is that the pipe thickness and the material is so thick that it is very, very useful. And so pipe type definitely has, it impacts, and it does have an impact on how long a pipe will, last in the ground. We do have a rehab and rehab program, rehab and renewal program in our capital program. And what we do is we go in and we look at different factors, pipe type being one of them. We look at pipe age, we look at location, we look at repair records, and we go in and rehab our water pipes in our system to keep our infrastructure, up to par. And I'm a big fan of water main rehab, and so this is definitely what we will be doing here. We already have plans to do additional assessment on this pipe, and we're going to be using acoustical technology. And that technology is going to allow us to survey other sections of this pipe that are down while we have it isolated. And if we find additional problems, we're going to go in and replace, because once we're up under that creek bed, we want to do it one time. We're going to go in and replace everything that needs to be replaced. So, hope I've answered your question. I hope I wasn't too wordy, but age is a factor, is not the only factor. Charlotte Water has a rehabilitation program that considers many factors, and then it spits out for us pipes across our service area for rehab and renewal.
Okay, our next question will go to Melissa Martin. Melissa, go ahead with your question when you're ready.
Hey, I have two questions, and one will piggyback off of that. One, what percentage of our bill goes toward pipe maintenance and repairs? And then also, we're hearing from people who were not notified that they lost water but weren't home last night. So if somebody lost water and they weren't home, how should they know that they should boil water?
If someone was not at home, the direction we're giving them is that go ahead and boil it. If in doubt, just go ahead and boil it until we finish our water quality testing. And so that is the advice that we are giving. In terms of the portion, I don't have that right off the top of my head, but I can tell you about 26% of our capital program goes to rehab of our infrastructure. Now that's water and wastewater, that's pipes and plants, but it's about 26% of our capital program. And our 5-year capital program right now is about $2.38 billion.
Okay, our next question will go to Jonathan Lowe. Jonathan, when you're ready, go ahead with your question.
And Angela, it's good to see you again.
Hey, Jonathan.
So I have two questions. One, I was seeing in comments from people last night that there were some smaller breaks on, say, their street or their cul-de-sac that they had called and reported. First question is, were there any warning signs that this could potentially happen? And then secondly, for the businesses and other, like, for instance, dental offices that use a lot of water that had to close today, should they expect that they need to close again tomorrow since this boil water advisory goes through tomorrow evening, or is there a chance that it could be lifted earlier?
Yeah, there is a chance, but I don't want to put that out yet. I guess this is the wrong group to say that. But when I was giving my opening comments, Jonathan, we are 18 to 24 hours in one of our water quality tests that we have to complete. And of course, I didn't talk much about this, but there's also, a regulatory component that we have to satisfy here. So my direction is that if there was, again, an office that was impacted, again, if there was no interruption in water service, keep trucking along. But if there is a location that was impacted, lost water service, then I would wait until we get the results back in from the lab. And remind me again of your first question, Jonathan. Oh yeah, it was about localized breaks. Sometimes that can happen. Now, let me tell you how things work. Let me peel back the onion a little bit. When we have a water main break in our system, and of course, this one was of great magnitude. This one was historical. What happens at our water plants is they are pushing out more water to try to compensate for that breach because the water system is a closed system. And so sometimes in doing that, we experience localized breaks because our pumps at the plant are working hard to keep the whole system up. And so that's sometimes we get that, Jonathan. That's just part of managing a system. And of course, our crews will be out there to repair those as reported. And that's another good message. Please call 311 to report. Also, I think the person before you said, well, hey, I wasn't notified. We tried to get everyone that we could. But again, call 311, make sure that if there are any issues, that we have a record of them and that we can address them.
Our next question will go to Charlotte Observer reporter Lauren Lindstrom.
Hey, Lauren.
Hi there. Do you have an estimate of how many residential and commercial customers are under that blue shaded area?
We don't, and I tell you why, and that's because it's localized. It's not on every street, it's not in every neighborhood, it's not at every establishment. But we know that how we manage the water system is through a pressure zone that has the shape of that map. And so it's hard at this time to make how many were impacted, and I wish we could, but that would just it is so localized and depends on the elevation of the particular premise that's being served. It's virtually impossible to get to all those streets to get an estimate at this point.
Our next question will go to Axio Charlotte reporter Katie Soloff.
Good morning, and thank you for chatting with us.
Good morning, Katie.
Good morning. We've heard from a lot of readers and residents who are very frustrated about the time lapse and when they found out about all of this. In fact, if some people weren't on social media, they might not have known about the situation until this morning, well after they had been drinking water, brushing their teeth, preparing food. How would you say the city, or what lessons can you say the city has learned from this, and how can they improve the communication strategy moving forward so that next time, if there is a next time, folks will be well informed, right from the get-go about the fact that they need to boil their water because of safety concerns?
Yes, thank you, Katie, for the question. And we are looking at how can we use more technology to notify our customer base. Now, the decision, Katie, the decision part of whether to go on the boil water notice or not, there is, you don't have a water main break isolated and immediately go to that decision. Okay, because there's a time of evaluation in there. On a normal, for example, we have normal main breaks. Our plants aren't impacted. Our tanks aren't impacted. We don't have to go out and look at pressure recorders and look at the data on how the system is performing. And so we can more quickly respond, and you all have seen it, water's out for 2 or 3 hours, and our folks are working and we get it restored. In this case, and in a system type of large break like this, it takes it takes some time. And so that's what we have here, is that time gap. But yes, we are looking at, to directly answer you, Katie, we are looking at the methods that we used, to notify folks. We feel like we responded, quickly, but there's room for improvement on once the decision is made, to get that information out to our customer base. And how can we use electronic, how can we electronically do it, and how can we better use some of the tools that we have? And I think that's I think that's a fair question. So during this time period, and this is the thing about it, if you were using your water during this time period, your water's safe to use. Because think about it, the people who we are saying need to boil water, the people didn't have any. Those are the folks we were concerned about. And it had to do with losing pressure. But if you were using your water during this time period, during the time of the break, you kept brushing. I always say wash, brush, flush. If you were able to do that, your water's safe, and keep trucking along, keep moving forward.
Our next question will go to Gordon Rago from the Charlotte Observer. Gordon, first off, welcome to Charlotte. Welcome to the Charlotte Observer, and we will turn it over to you for your question for Ms. Charles.
Thanks, Corey. Hey, Angela, just a couple questions. Good. I appreciate the time on this. Just a couple questions, one of which is piggybacking off of another reporter. I'm wondering if this pipe has ever been rehabbed in the past, if you know that. And, my second question is, it's no secret the city of Charlotte's been rapidly growing. I'm wondering, with the population growth, if you could talk a little bit about how that would impact how well a system like your system holds up, and how it might contribute to what we saw yesterday.
Excellent question, Gordon. Our engineers were just looking this morning. There are sections of this pipe that have been relocated, not rehab, but relocated in the past. And so we are evaluating that, and we are again looking to see if there is additional work that needs to be done beyond fixing what we have now on this section of pipe. So you're dead on target with what can we do to extend the life. We call it extend the life of the asset, and that's what we want to do. Your second question is, earlier when I talked about our 5-year capital program, 56% of that 2.38 billion capital program we have is capacity for growth. And so there is, and I've said this many times throughout my career, what we have to do as a utility is manage growth and take care of what we have at the same time. And that is, it's in 365 day a year effort. And there is constantly this internal tug in our organization, because on one hand, nothing happens in the community without water and sewer. When you develop or you build something, or you have an idea of something you want to build, you can't do it if people can't wash, brush, and flush, okay? And so that is first and primary. And then on the other side, we've got a system that's been around since the late 1800s. And so how do we rehab and replace, which is an expensive endeavor. How do you rehab and replace what you have and take care of it in a way where you extend the life of an existing asset. And so that's what we do. We do a good job at it. If you look at a system our size, we have over 8,900 miles of water and wastewater pipe just to serve Charlotte Mecklenburg. That is unheard of. We're the 14th or 15th largest utility in the nation. And so, you know, we do extensive work, extensive evaluation, and a lot of work internally, Gordon, for that balance. Capacity for growth, rehab, and renewal and replacement of existing infrastructure. And I hope in the coming years, I hope that's one thing that in terms of my leadership of Charlotte Water is I want to see us do more rehab of what we have.
Ms. Charles, I'm going to ask this question for Fox 46 reporter Robin
Sure.
Kennedy, who's having some technical issues. She was asking if you could share some information about what your crews do in terms of inspection and prevention across all of your various infrastructure elements.
Sure. We do have what is called a critical asset group. And what they do is they go out and evaluate our assets in our water distribution system and our wastewater collection system. And that's one level of what we call condition assessment. On the wastewater side, we CCTV. We actually send a camera down wastewater lines to note the condition and to make repairs as necessary. And so there's a general inspection that's required by our wastewater collection permit every year of the entire system. We monitor complaints. We cut, it's called cut and tag. So when our crew's out doing repairs and we cut out a piece of pipe, we cut it, we tag it, and we look to see if there's buildup in it. And we use that to inform our water main rehabilitation program. And so just in line with what I said about rehab and replacement of existing infrastructure is important. We have inspections. Some of it is required from a regulatory standpoint. Some of it is good management of a water wastewater utility that we do.
Okay, I believe Sarah D'Elia is going to be our final question. I believe she's the only reporter who hasn't raised her hand. And so, Sarah, I'm going to turn it over to you for your question for Ms. Charles.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. I was wondering, for people especially who have been most impacted by the breakage, what can people expect in the next billing cycle regarding their water bill? Should they be worried about the impact this is going to have?
This should not have an impact unless there is a leak behind the water meter. Okay? So any leakage that is between the meter and going forward towards the street would be Charlotte Water's responsibility and will not impact, and I'm glad you asked this question, it will not impact a water bill, a customer's water bill. It would only be a leakage behind the meter itself. So as long as there is normal usage there, our customer's bill should be fine. If there's a question, if a customer feels like they have a particular situation or an unusual situation, if they will call 311, we can have someone come out and inspect and see if there's an issue that we can help address.